Hello, everyone. This is the VE Squadcast episode
Squad.
1. We are debuting brand new show. I'm not exactly dressed up for the Squadcast. I had a concert tonight, but I, might as well stay looking nice.
Exactly.
Why didn't you guys dress up? You didn't get the memo?
Hey, man,
I'm wearing this hat. I'm wearing a hat, Brady. Do you see the hat, Brady? This is dressed up.
So if you're watching this back, if the year is 2022 or whatever, let's introduce ourselves very quick. I am Brady, your host per week, the host extraordinaire of the Squaw. And then we're going to kick it over. Charlie, tell us about yourself.
I'm Charlie, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, undisputed era fanboy. Who knows if they'll even be around by, what'd you say, 2022?
Yeah.
Hey, man, hopefully Adam Cole's WWE champion by then, right?
Garrett.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Garrett, also known as the Duke of Derps. Been around on the internet for a while. You might know me. A lot of people tend to. Yeah, I have a YouTube channel.
There you go. All right, so we're going to kick off with the first segment. Cat, go away. I want to talk to you. All right, so let's start with our very first segment that we have here, which is called Stop the Presses. So we're going to talk some wrestling news. Let's talk on some of the really big ones. The big news today, yesterday when the podcast goes up, is that Chris Jericho has been subbed in against The Undertaker at the Greatest Royal Rumble in the casket match. So Rusev was supposed to face Undertaker in a casket match and took to social media talking about how he retired The Undertaker, and apparently WWE didn't like that too much, and one person was the catalyst for this, and Chris Jericho has been subbed in. We haven't seen Jericho in a little while. He's been on tour with Fozzy, but apparently the date is free. Now, Charlie, we hear that Michelle McCool is the reason why Rusev got pulled?
Yeah, so we don't know anything yet, but we're hoping that's not the reason. But the Rusev and Lana were on some TMZ thing, and Rusev was totally in character, saying how he's going to end The Undertaker, he's going to retire him, and something about, I can't remember the exact words. It's something along the lines of crush his old ass, and totally in character. And Michelle McCool tweeted about it, talking about who do they think they are, who do you think you are? Something with respect.
Which, for those that might not know, Michelle McCool and The Undertaker are married, so.
Yeah, so it's completely wild, actually. And then all this is going down. Lana tweets, "I will not let my husband compete." WWE retweets that. And then 60 minutes later, Chris Jericho's in it. So who knows? I hope it's all a work. I'm hoping for the best for Rusev Day.
Yeah, Garrett, it seems like they've been putting the stomp on Rusev a little bit. They don't like people to get as over as they'd like, but you think this is a work? You think Rusev's going to be punished?
I think either or is entirely possible with the history of the WWE and the way backstage politics seem to control the business these days, as it always kind of has. I think that the big thing with Rusev is it's obvious he's been in sort of a limbo state for a while. I think Lana is trying to kind of pull a Brie Bella a little bit and try and keep him honest, and not make him into this glorified thing. I hope it's not Michelle McCool, just like what Charlie was saying. It could spell bad stuff for anyone that wants to face The Undertaker. I heard other people saying, like X-Pac and Taz, saying he looked good in the ring, for despite what everyone thought. So I don't really know. I hope it turns out to be a work, Brady, because if it is, it's going to be way better for Rusev,
Yep. So in other news, we have Liv Morgan. What she thought was harmless, but she might be in some little bit of trouble. Liv Morgan was at the NXT tapings the other day and posted the entire NXT script on Instagram. Now, these scripts from WWE have been getting leaked to some of the other people in wrestling media, but it's definitely not good for a wrestler to just Instagram, what do you even call that? Just posting the picture of the script. And it had producers of matches and everything on there. It's the actual script that the wrestlers use. So that's not good, especially when Liv Morgan is not a bona fide superstar yet. She's still pretty expendable in the WWE's eyes.
Hey, man, something good out of this is we know Shawn Michaels is producing matches in NXT. So
he produced the ladder match.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
takeover. Yeah.
Well, if anyone's going to produce a ladder match, one of the first two to be in one.
Absolutely. And then the last bit of news we have is Brock Lesnar got a contract. I wouldn't call it an extension, but he got a contract restructure. So Brock Lesnar was originally signed through SummerSlam, I know, but it seems like he restructured his contract, so it goes shorter now. Maybe not getting paid as much, maybe agreed to it. The details aren't out yet, but it seems like most people are leaning to the fact that it's a shorter contract than what he had before. So he'll be out quicker, which is odd because he's the champion currently. But apparently this is so that he can get back into the USADA testing pool and get back into the UFC, because you can do wrestling a lot longer than you can do fighting in the UFC. And so the clock's ticking on that, in my opinion. So I see nothing wrong with that. What do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, it is what it is. This could be a way for WWE to, I guess, I don't know, try and get Roman cheered in Saudi Arabia. Maybe that's where this extension comes from, if it is what it is. Or, who knows. Yeah. Definitely an interesting thing. But if it's for him to get to the USADA pool, it'll be interesting to see if he fights again in UFC. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, Garrett, you got to think he can't fight for too much longer, right? And, I mean, even wrestling, I mean, you can start seeing the age taking a little bit of a toll on him.
Yeah, Brock Lesnar's always been a super athlete, but you can tell the guy doesn't quite move like he did even 6 months ago, His match with Joe was, like, super aggressive and super speedy, and this last match with Roman, you could tell he's not quite where he was that long ago. And it makes you concerned because, yeah, he does need to drop the belt, but if he can't compete on that level because he wants to fight, because I can tell you this, he's going to prioritize that fight over his next match.
Absolutely.
So if he's like, I need to train, I've just gotten added to the pool, I've got to fight, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, because he probably won't fight till like next year.
You can cater a wrestling match to what you need it to be. A fight is a fight. There's no way to predict what's going to happen, how long it's going to be, how much energy you're going to need or not need. With a wrestling match, if you go into it thinking, all right, this is what I can and can't do, and then you cater it to what you need. But if you're going into the UFC, you got to just be in top shape. So clock's ticking on it. All right. So now we're going to talk some first class, whether you want it to be an airline or news. But we're talking about the best segment of the week. In your opinion, what arrived first class for you guys? Charlie, I'll let you start it off.
Yeah, man. So first class, best thing of the week for me this week. We had a lot of action in wrestling, but I got to say, man, this NXT TakeOver ladder match featuring Ricochet, Adam Cole, Velveteen Dream, Lars Sullivan, Killian Dane, and EC3 debut. I mean, this is just easily one of the most exciting matches I've ever seen. Easily. And this kicked everything off. And out of this, we get feuds. We got Lars and Killian feuding. We got Ricochet and Velveteen Dream feuding. And then Adam Cole has the championship. And Adam Cole is as over as I think I've ever seen anyone ever in NXT. I mean, it's pretty wild. So I'm hoping, I don't know. To me, that was definitely first class.
It was fun. And I mean, it's a ladder match with 6 people. And I think they went hard. That's a match where if you're complaining that something is a spot fest in a ladder match, then I don't know what the hell you're doing with your life.
Crazy. This is the first time so many people have ever seen Ricochet.
Yeah.
And he just really, I feel like impressed.
Agreed. Garrett, what do you think was the best thing that happened in the past week?
So this is shocker from SmackDown. I loved the debut of Peyton Royce and Billie Kay and what it led into, which I'll get into in a second. But I have never seen somebody go out there, go off script, and just deliver like that before the entire time I've ever been watching wrestling. Like, we've watched promos where they kind of, nudge each other off script, or one person starts that way and the other person has to kind of make up for it or whatever. This was not that. This was Peyton Royce going out there and saying, I'm going to make this moment one of the best debuts in the last, I want to say, probably the last 2 years, one of the best debuts we've had promo-wise. And, of course, this led to them beating down on Charlotte, who they interrupted in the first place, who then got cashed in on by Miss Money in the Bank, Carmella.
We lose him. I think we lost Garrett. All right.
I'm back.
There we go.
Anyway, so it led to the cash in, and that just capped off the segment for me. So, yeah, sorry. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I agree. I really liked the segment. I thought they owned it. And in NXT, they were kind of treated as equals, and I think WWE is doing the right thing, making Peyton look like the star. Can we agree?
Yes.
She's the star.
He's the money.
Yep. For me, the best segment, and it's odd because it's not something that I enjoyed necessarily, but it really got to me was the Paige retirement segment. So Paige officially announced her retirement, and we all knew it was coming. We all knew that she wasn't going to be cleared to wrestle. It's very much similar to Daniel Bryan's situation, although Daniel Bryan's was a brain issue. Hers is a neck. She had a surgery, came back, got re-injured, everything, which is a shame. And I don't know. It was just a shocker that she came out the night after Mania and made the announcement. She wanted to make it in New Orleans, where she made her debut and won the title. And I put on Twitter that my top 2 favorite women's feuds of all time since I've been watching wrestling in the past 25 years are Trish and Lita and AJ and Paige. It was heart-wrenching for me to watch. I mean, I usually don't tear up, but the last time that I remember really being that sad was Edge's retirement. Daniel Bryan's retirement didn't even hit me as hard because of how young Paige is. She's only 25.
Yeah.
I was a huge Edge fan. Oh, that was a rough night.
Yeah, and that was so on just out of the blue. He retained the title at Mania and then came out and said he's going to retire.
After capping off like one of the best Undertaker feuds ever.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was crazy. And Paige's was just like that for me. And we'll talk about what she moved on to later. And I'm glad WWE found something for her. So now we're going to cut over to our worst wrestling segment of the week, which we have decided to call Crossing Himself.
Charade getting on the top floor in the high rank district. Here he goes. Himself. Oh.
Hold on, I got to crank it up in case you have not seen this.
Man.
Charade getting on the top floor in the high rank district. Here he goes. Crossing himself.
Oh, no. Oh, that is just brutal.
So our worst wrestling segment of the week. I guess we'll go backwards from what we did before. For me, obviously, okay, the match was good, but I think Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, I know that this probably signifies that one of the two are moving to Raw, but putting Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles as the main event of SmackDown, I'm a fan of saving matchups. I know that the fans were popping for it, but the fact that we didn't even see an outcome, that Shinsuke Nakamura ended it, and it makes you wanting more, but you know that one of these guys is going to be moving shows. That's the only reason they do it. And
badly, yeah.
And also Daniel Bryan obviously isn't anywhere near top form. It's going to take a little while for him to get back to where he was. This was a WrestleMania main event, and I'm sure when they eventually do it in a year or two that they'll say it's the first time they've ever wrestled, but now we know that they have wrestled before.
Yeah, true.
Garrett.
So we've talked about this on previous episodes or installments of our podcast, that one of the most annoying things that they tend to try and do on SmackDown just to get a women's segment on the show that's not a debut segment this week was they put Naomi, who just won the Battle Royal, against Natalya. And then you can say, they needed to put a match on so Naomi can keep momentum, whatever. You can give her any other opponent pretty much on SmackDown at this point. She can put on a decent match with them. For some reason, her and Natalya just do not click right. I don't know what it is, but to me, it just felt like it was a real slowdown for the show. And by the time we got to the main event, it was just dragging, man. I mean, it didn't ruin the whole show for me, obviously. My favorite segment of the week was from this show, but I feel like after having that women's segment following it with this one, what are you asking for fans to try and do at this point,
True.
Chuck them all on at once. Why the hell not? Charlie, what do you think was the worst segment? And let me preface this by saying we talked about this before the show. Charlie and I had the same thing written down. Charlie, you take it.
Yeah, man. So the worst thing by far is Rusev getting pinned at WrestleMania by Jinder Mahal. And this is not one of those, oh, it's to get heat on Jinder. No. As we talked about in the news, I mean, it's almost a conspiracy in itself, man, what they're trying to do with Rusev. And the fact that you have him get pinned by Jinder, I mean, all night, all you heard was Rusev Day chants. And you're like, man, is this guy finally going to get some love? Are they actually going to do something with him? Because they added him to the match kind of out of nowhere. Right? So, I don't know. Definitely put a sour mood in my mouth, or sour taste in my mouth at that hour.
I watched WrestleMania with Charlie and Rick, and I don't think I've ever laughed so hard at wrestling as when Jinder got the pin. I literally, because I've been watching wrestling for too long, about 30 seconds before he got the pin, I said, dude, Jinder's winning the title. And Charlie's like, shut up. And then it happened. He hit the Colossus, and I just started laughing uncontrollably. I couldn't help myself.
It's just there's so many bad things that come out of this, and it goes into him and Orton again. I mean, this just by far was the worst thing.
I audibly groaned.
It was just, if Jinder was a great wrestler, I don't think anyone would care. But the thing is, no one finds him interesting in the ring. I don't know.
Because he's not bad.
Racist Charlie? Is this going to be your shtick?
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh my God.
All right. So Charlie mentioned some conspiracies. Let's go to a segment called Conspiracy Corner. Garrett, the floor is yours.
All right. So weird things were happening on SmackDown this week. We've already kind of discussed that. It felt like a really weird show to follow a Mania with. Last year, we got all kinds of stuff. We got Ty Dillinger. We got Bobby Roode. We got, I think, somebody else, Nakamura, dude. Nakamura started. I think he started. No, he didn't start the show, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, we had Nakamura. I mean, so you'd expect there to be more debuts, especially when you got like Sanity and who else we were saying. Some people were saying that it should have debuted.
Definitely Ono.
Ono, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it was Ono. People were expecting Ono, and Sanity to go along with the iconic duo. Now, they definitely needed to debut the iconic duo this week. This was just, they knew this was going to need to be their moment, especially with all the women's stuff they did this week, So here's the thing. They had all that stuff on Raw. So much stuff happened. You had Bobby Lashley. You had 2 different returns. You had 3 returns. You had Joe, you had Jeff, and you had Bobby. Okay. On top of that, you have all the other NXT debuts that you have. You have AOP. You've got Ember Moon. You've got I'm missing one.
No Way Jose.
No Way Jose. And you got all those going super well, right? Okay. You've got to save some of that stuff. Now, it's going to get confusing when they debut them next week, but I think that's when Sanity and Ono are coming, is next week, during the Superstar Shakeup. And you can justify that saying, well, it's like the draft. We got some NXT signings then. We'll get some now. They didn't want to overload us on wrestling this week. So that's really what I'm thinking is going here, because it was really weird watching all this stuff happen and come to nothing on SmackDown and being such a boring show. So yeah, that's Conspiracy Corner this week. But yeah, I mean, it's just pretty odd that all that stuff just didn't happen this week when it was totally meant to.
I mean, we talked about how many
good points.
Like how much talent NXT has, right? Shut up. All right.
NXT is loaded.
So they can't call up everyone at once. Like Garrett was saying, it's just odd because they have to stagger it out a little bit. It would be nice if we saw Sanity next week. It's like, oh, you thought the calls were done. And I like the point with Iconics. They were the only NXT call up on SmackDown. That made them look huge. Just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming with that conspiracy, Garrett.
So let's move on to Falls Count Anywhere. This is where we talk about stuff that is not wrestling related. We're going to try to stay away from wrestling stuff because although we're a wrestling podcast, we also just like to talk. Garrett, you've been instructed with giving us our topic this week. Hit us with it.
Conor McGregor was arrested after assaulting a bus full of UFC fighters and staffers. Guy got out recently on $50,000 bail. He's allowed to leave the country. Man, talk about any opportunity for Brock Lesnar to sign a deal with Dana White ever when they need a star. You know,
that's true. I mean, so Charlie, before I throw it to you, let me just put this out there. People still think that this is somehow a work from the UFC. The UFC is not WWE or a wrestling company in general. The New York Police Department does not arrest people for the sake of storylines.
They're not segments.
Conor McGregor was legitimately arrested, and he kind of got very defensive when he was asked in an interview with Dana White if he was on substances. Like, Dana White in an interview said, yeah, I'm not sure if Conor's on something. And people are speculating that no one in a right mindset actually acts that way. He acted like a child, threw a dolly into a bus, shattering some glass, got some glass in people's eyes.
Michael Chiesa was hospitalized.
It's, I don't know. To me, that is immature. I don't think an adult should act that way. If some people are speculating that I might be on cocaine or something of the sorts. Charlie, what do you think of this whole situation, considering McGregor was their poster boy, but they also knew what a loose cannon he was?
This could definitely lead to a fall of one of their greatest fighters they've ever had. This could definitely lead to him probably never fighting again in their ring.
And if you follow John Jones, you know that this is the last thing the UFC needed.
So they're I'm pretty sure they're done with him after this.
Dana White was quoted as saying this was not a good career move for Conor.
Yep.
That same interview, I think.
Honestly, this could be the type of thing where people just remember him by. They don't remember him as stepping out of those boundaries and, you know what I mean, and becoming one of the greatest fighters. People forget that. It's stuff like this that they end up remembering.
Especially when they were planning on having him face Mayweather in a UFC fight. Like, Mayweather was legitimately thinking about fighting him in an MMA fight. And now it's all down the drain. People think that this is a work. This is absolutely not a work. The New York Police Department, the NYPD, does not take up space in their cells for a night so that UFC can get a news story out. Doesn't happen.
Try and build, I don't know. It's ridiculous.
So now we're talking about some fresh meat. All right. This segment's called Fresh Meat. This is another one of our optional storylines, but this is the week to do it. I mean, this is the week after Mania. We're talking about NXT call-ups. We're talking about new signees. We're talking about people switching brands. We'll have some fresh meat next week because we got the Soup Shake, the Superstar Shakeup next week. So we had 4 debuts on Raw. One was a recent signee. I was coming back to the WWE in general, and 3 were from NXT. So we had No Way Jose coming up, going to fill out some mid-card spot in the WWE. We had Authors of Pain coming in. They're going to have the tag championship sooner rather than later. Ember Moon is in a perfect position, in my opinion, because you got Nia Jax to face champ. Ember doesn't – there's no pressure on WWE to push her for the title right away. This is a great spot to call her up to. She always seemed more of like a SmackDown person to me, but we'll see what happens in the shakeup. And Bobby Lashley making his semi-surprise return. We all knew that WWE had signed him and that he was probably getting called up, but it was still damn cool to see, man. And Bobby Lashley looks 5 years younger than he did when he was in the WWE 10 years ago.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe longer. I think it was like 15 years ago. It's been a long time. And Bobby Lashley found himself over at Impact, over at TNA. And
he was the guy for 2 years.
He had all every championship.
Yeah. He literally held every belt in their company at one point. I mean, that's just...
At the same time.
Yeah, at the same time. He was vacating them all left and right. Just because he could. Yeah.
Garrett, other than Bobby Lashley, which one of these got you the most hyped up?
I got to say, man, when Authors of Pain music hit, I knew it was coming. We all knew it was coming. As soon as there was a tag team segment, we were like, here they are. But, you know, it's just still so cool to see them. And I got to say, though, weird thing, the Ellering stuff. What?
I loved it.
No, makes sense.
Yeah, his daughter is in NXT. He wants to be there with her, and he doesn't want to be on the road all that much. Just having them debut without him would have left a lot of question marks. The fact that he came out there and let him free, I think, filled that big hole. That way no one can ask any questions. And now Authors of Pain, if you kind of saw Ellering as the one kind of holding him back a little bit, kind of taming him a little bit, it makes him look even more scary. When they walked away, now they're unleashed fully. It's like, oh, maybe we didn't see the real Authors of Pain. Maybe Ellering was kind of, making them ease off a little bit. Now we might see an even more ruthless Authors of Pain. That's crazy. And then going over to SmackDown, not a debut, but Paige, as I was saying, I was going to mention earlier, Paige debuted as the new general manager of SmackDown. She made the Daniel Bryan AJ Styles match. Not a bad match to announce as your first match you're making as GM. It's great that they found something for her. And then Garrett referenced it earlier. Iconics debuting on SmackDown Live. It made it huge that they were the only ones to debut because, let's face it, on Raw, No Way Jose's debut, did it seem as special? Not really, with Bobby Lashley, Authors of Pain, and Ember Moon all either coming back or debuting. No Way Jose, it's cool, debut, but Iconics seemed real special.
I'd agree.
Garrett, what do you think about Paige being GM? She probably doesn't – I mean, I think she wants to be involved in the company, but do you think this is a good spot for her rather than just being a manager?
I think it can be if she decides she really wants to work at it, and I think she really is really in love with being a part of this business. And I think if she can find a way, in the same way that Daniel Bryan, if he could find a way to be a part of wrestling, that he could still feel like he was working the schedule and doing this and being involved in creative decisions, I think that's what she'll try and do, try and emulate as a SmackDown GM. If the SmackDown GM gimmick, by the way, or just the GM gimmick becomes people who can't wrestle anymore, but they need to give it to, though, it's going to get old real fast. I feel like people are going to be like, ooh, every time we get a new GM, it's just, because you do need to change them every so often. So, I don't think she's going to be forever. I don't think she should be either. Let's see what happens.
If she's going to be in a manager / GM role, if she's going to be in that power role, she could theoretically be in that power role for the next 25 years.
But that's not going to happen. People will get bored, so.
Hey, people aren't bored of Stephanie yet. Some are. But
we are.
She finds new ways to rejuvenate herself. I think Paige could do the same thing. I think she's shown that her character can be multifaceted. All right, and then we are going to we're going to wrap up the week with Around the Ring in 80 seconds. Charlie, can you start the timer? Could you get a timer out for me?
Will do.
And you keep butting in. You tell me 30 seconds, you tell me 10 seconds, and I'm going to get it. All right?
All right.
All right, ready?
And let's go.
All right. So Jeff Hardy made his return to the ring this week. He ended up back in action. They ended up having Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy meet backstage. It was a little weird. Finn Balor and Seth Rollins were judging Jeff Hardy quite a bit. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were begging for a job. They got put in a match, which ended in a no contest, and neither of them got a contract to Raw, which was funny. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens still doing the kayfabe thing. Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt ended up becoming they got in a #1 contenders match for the title next week, and then the winner of
5 seconds
versus who? Who are they facing? They're facing
Revival.
There you go, Revival. Winner faces the Bar next week, so sorry, Revival, you're out. Brock Lesnar's probably losing the Universal Championship sooner rather than later because Roman Reigns pouted, and it's going to be very interesting to see what Slater and Rhino do now that they got killed by Authors of Pain. Marinello is great on commentary, by the way. SmackDown, pretty much we saw the 15. Fallout. We had some 205 live stuff. And other than the debuts that we talked about, Nakamura, he's a dick.
Back to 5. Are you done?
We're good.
Hey, man, you had 76 seconds about, I'd say you fucking.
Yeah, all right. We'll get it down. All right. So that's going to be it for this week. We're keeping it short, sweet, and simple. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Yes, I'm keeping the outro. Click that little bell so you know when we go live. And till next time, we'll catch you on episode 2.